You probably did it last night and the night before that. In fact, you have done it almost every single night of your entire life. Sleep. We close our eyes, we lose awareness of the world, and we spend roughly 8 hours doing what exactly? That is a question humans have asked for centuries, and the answer is still not fully understood. Here is a number that might surprise you. If you live to be 80 years old, you will have spent around 26 of those years asleep. 26 years. That is more time than most people spend working, more time than many people spend with their families. So it is natural to wonder, what if we did not need to sleep at all? What if, starting tomorrow, every human being on Earth could stay awake forever? No tiredness, no need to close their eyes, just pure, continuous, uninterrupted time. That is what this video explores. At first glance, it sounds like a dream, but as we go deeper, you will start to see a different picture. Because sleep is not just time we lose every night, it is something far more woven into who we are, into our emotions, our memories, our relationships, and our sense of what it means to be human. By the end of this, you might look at your pillow a little differently. Let's start with the good news, because there is good news. Imagine waking up tomorrow morning, except you never actually went to sleep. You simply kept going. No grogginess, no alarm pulling you out of a dream. You are sharp, energized, and ready. And that feeling never fades. Think about what that means for a single day. Instead of 16 hours of usable time, you now have 24 every single day. That is 8 extra hours. 8 hours you could spend building something, learning something, creating something, experiencing something. A researcher who studies time and productivity once pointed out that most people feel they never have enough hours in the day. In a world without sleep, that problem would simply vanish. Students could study longer, doctors could treat more patients, scientists could run more experiments, artists could spend more hours creating. And for ordinary people, there would finally be enough time to cook that meal, read that book, have that long conversation with someone you love. Entertainment would expand too. Imagine cinemas open at 3 in the morning, restaurants full at midnight, parks filled with people at 4 a.m. on a Tuesday. The world would hum with activity at every single hour. And fatigue, that heavy, foggy feeling that slows you down in the afternoon, would be completely gone. No more midday crashes, no more fighting to stay focused in a meeting. You would feel consistently alert, hour after hour. On the surface, this world sounds extraordinary. More time, more energy, more life. But wait. Before we celebrate too loudly, let us ask a quieter question. What exactly are we losing when we lose sleep? To understand what a world without sleep really means, we need to understand what sleep actually is. And this is where things get interesting. A sleep researcher once said, "Sleep is not a passive state. The brain during sleep is incredibly active, cleaning, sorting, and preparing for the next day." Think of it like this. Imagine you run a busy restaurant. All day long, customers come in, orders fly around, dishes pile up, and the place gets messier and messier. But then, at night, after everyone leaves, the cleaning crew arrives. They wash everything. They restock the shelves. They fix the small problems before they become big ones. And by morning, the kitchen is ready to go again. Your brain does something very similar while you sleep. A neuroscientist explained it this way. During sleep, the brain flushes out waste products that build up during waking hours. Without this process, those waste products accumulate. And over time, that causes serious damage. Sleep is also the time when memories get sorted and stored. Everything you learned during the day, every face you saw, every skill you practiced, every conversation you had, gets processed and filed away while you sleep. Without that process, much of it simply fades. A psychologist who studies emotion once noted, "Sleep is one of the most important tools we have for emotional regulation. When people are deprived of sleep, they become more reactive, more anxious, and less able to control their responses." And that is just the beginning. Researchers who study human health have found connections between sleep and the immune system, heart health, weight, and even the ability to fight certain diseases. So sleep is not wasted time, it is maintenance time, essential maintenance, the kind that keeps everything else working. Now imagine removing it permanently. Here is where the picture starts to shift. At first, a world without sleep sounds like a gift, but look a little closer. and you begin to see the cracks. Let us start with work. Right now, when the clock hits a certain hour, most people stop working. They go home. They rest. There is a natural boundary between work time and personal time. Sleep enforces that boundary. But in a world where no one sleeps, that boundary disappears. If you can work 24 hours a day and your employer knows that, how long before the expectation becomes exactly that? A psychologist who studies workplace behavior said the 8-hour workday was fought for over generations. It exists partly because human beings need rest. Remove the need for rest, and you remove the argument for limits. Think about what that means. No weekends in any real sense. No evenings to yourself. Just a continuous, endless stream of tasks, deadlines, and responsibilities. The pressure to always be available, always be productive, always be doing something would become impossible to escape. Some people might enjoy that at first, but for most, it would feel less like freedom and more like a trap with no exit. And then there is the question of rhythm. Human life is built around cycles: morning and evening, work and rest, activity and stillness. These rhythms give shape to our days and meaning to our time. We look forward to the weekend, not just because we are tired, but because it represents a break in the pattern, a moment to breathe. Without sleep, those rhythms collapse. Every hour would feel the same. Tuesday at 2 p.m. and Friday at 2 a.m. would be identical. A historian who studies human culture once wrote that civilizations have always organized themselves around periods of rest, and that removing rest from daily life would fundamentally alter the way humans experience time itself. The days would blur together, and with them, so would the sense of progress, of days past, of life moving forward. Let us zoom out. Beyond individual lives, what would happen to society as a whole? Schools would change first. Right now, we teach children in shifts. A morning, maybe an afternoon. There are breaks. There are summers. There is time to process, to play, to simply be a child. In a world without sleep, would schools run continuously? Would a child be expected to sit in a classroom for 12, 14, 16 hours a day? An education researcher once said, children do not just learn in classrooms. They learn in the quiet moments, in play, in daydreaming, in the spaces between structured activity. A world that fills every hour with instruction would actually produce less learning, not more. Cities would transform too. Right now, a 24-hour city is considered exciting, a sign of energy and life. But that excitement exists partly because it is the exception. Most of the city sleeps. The streets are quiet. There is a contrast that makes the activity meaningful. In a world where everyone is always awake, there is no contrast, no quiet, no stillness, just noise, movement, and stimulation, hour after hour, without end. And economically? At first, it might seem like a boom. More hours worked means more productivity, more goods produced, more services delivered. But economists who study human behavior would point out something important. People need time to want things. They need rest to appreciate experiences. Constant consumption without pause leads not to satisfaction, but to numbness. The economy might grow enormous and feel completely hollow. Relationships would face pressure too. Today, couples share a bed. Families sleep under the same roof. Bedtime is often when quiet conversations happen, the ones that do not fit into the busy hours of the day. Take away that shared ritual, and you take away something quietly important. A psychologist who specializes in relationships once said, the transitions of the day, waking up together, going to sleep together, are small but significant moments of connection. Many couples underestimate how much those moments hold the relationship together. Now let us go somewhere even quieter. Inside the mind. What happens to a human being who never stops being conscious? First, there are the dreams. Dreams are strange, often nonsensical, sometimes beautiful. Science still does not fully understand them, but researchers believe they serve an important purpose, helping the brain process emotions, work through problems, and explore ideas in a way the waking mind cannot. Without sleep, dreams disappear entirely. And with them goes something harder to name, a space where the mind can wander freely, without judgment, without consequences. A private world that belongs to no one but you. A psychologist once described dreaming as the mind's way of talking to itself. In a world without sleep, that conversation ends, and the mind becomes a more crowded, more pressured place. But there is something even deeper to consider. Human beings have always needed a pause, not just physical rest, but mental distance from the events of their lives. Sleep provides that distance automatically. After a terrible day, you sleep. And when you wake, even if nothing has changed in the outside world, something has shifted inside you. The pain is a little softer. The problem looks a little different. The possibilities feel slightly wider. This is not just poetic. Researchers who study grief and trauma have found that sleep plays a genuine role in emotional recovery. It does not erase difficult experiences, but it helps the mind find a way to carry them. In a world without sleep, there is no pause, no reset. You carry every difficult moment directly into the next, and the next, and the next. A bad experience does not fade into yesterday. It stays with you, fully present, without relief. Over time, that would not just feel exhausting. It could fundamentally change the way people experience emotion. Grief might become harder to process. Anger might linger longer. Anxiety might build without the natural release that sleep provides. Some philosophers who study the nature of consciousness have asked an even more unsettling question. Without the daily experience of unconsciousness, of being switched off for a time, would humans lose some of their sense of what it means to be alive? If every moment is the same, if there is never a break in awareness, does life start to feel less like a journey and more like a room with no doors? There is one more thing worth thinking about. We live by the sun. For thousands of years, humans have organized their lives around light and darkness. The sun rises, we begin. It sets, we slow down. Darkness has always been a signal, built deep into human biology, that says, rest now. Tomorrow will come. In a world without sleep, that signal is meaningless. Night would still exist technically. The sun would still set, but the streets would be equally full at midnight as at midday. Darkness would no longer feel like an invitation to stop. It would just be another backdrop. A historian who studies the role of light and dark in human culture once wrote that the night has always served a social function. It is when people return home, when families gather, when communities quiet themselves and prepare for another day. Erase that function, and you erase something deeply rooted in human civilization. What would replace it? Perhaps nothing. And that is the point. Without the rhythm of day and night shaping human behavior, life would become entirely self-directed in a way it has never been before. And that sounds free, until you realize that most people find structure not oppressive, but comforting. Knowing when to stop is not a limitation. It is a gift. So where does that leave us? We started with a simple, exciting idea. What if we never had to sleep? More time, more energy, more of everything. And the answer, it turns out, is both yes and no. Yes, we would have more hours, but we might find it harder to value them. Yes, we could work more, but work might consume everything, leaving no space for life. Yes, we would never feel tired in the physical sense, but the mind might grow heavy in ways that are much harder to name and much harder to fix. A sleep researcher once offered this reflection. We have spent centuries trying to need less sleep. We drink coffee to delay it. We use artificial light to push it back. And yet, despite all of that, the need returns every single night. That persistence tells us something important. Sleep is not a flaw in human design. It is not time stolen from your life. It is part of what makes a human life work. It is when your brain repairs itself, when your emotions find their balance, when your memories settle into place, when your body restores what the day has taken. And yes, when your mind gets to wander freely, without demands or judgment, into the quiet country of dreams. We often think of sleep as the absence of life, but maybe it is the opposite. Maybe sleep is the foundation on which everything else is built, the invisible structure that holds the waking hours together. The reason a new morning feels different from the evening before it. Without sleep, we might have more time, but we might slowly lose the capacity to truly use it. And in the end, a life with more hours but less meaning would not be more life. It would just be more time.